There are moments when the world is silent, but your spirit is loud. Moments when the night feels long, but something in you refuses to sleep. You feel it, not in the noise, but in the stillness. Something is shifting. Something is arriving. You've walked through fires you never mentioned. You've buried tears in pillows that never told. And through it all, you waited, not with bitterness, but with a strange kind of hope, a sacred patience. Tonight is not just another night. It is the night, the kind heaven writes into history, the kind where the promise stops whispering and starts knocking. This is not a coincidence. This is a confirmation. So gather yourself, steady your heart, because God's promise is not approaching. It is here, the quiet before the breakthrough. There is a peculiar kind of silence that enters a person's life when they are standing on the edge of transformation. Not the silence of defeat, nor the absence of movement, but the deliberate stillness that falls just before something sacred begins to unfold. Many misunderstand this phase. They see it as stagnation, as if life has come to a standstill, as if the prayers spoken in desperation were lost in the wind. But in truth, this silence is not a sign of abandonment. It is the signature of the divine at work behind the veil. You see, breakthroughs rarely arrive with a trumpet sound. They do not always show up bathed in light or carried by applause. More often they arrive quietly, without warning, through ordinary doors that lead to extraordinary outcomes. And that quiet, the long pauses, the unanswered questions, the closed doors, is not wasted time. It is a furnace. It refines you, strips away the unnecessary, and fortifies what must remain. God does not prepare those he loves for temporary applause. He prepares them for enduring purpose. And purpose, real purpose, is never rushed. It is easy to mistake this season for rejection. The people around you may have stopped checking in. The opportunities may have dried up. The voice on the other end of the phone may no longer call. And in that isolation, the mind begins to wander. Doubt becomes a frequent visitor. You begin to ask if you misheard the promise, if you imagined the calling, if maybe, just maybe, this journey was never meant for you. But what feels like silence is often strategy. What seems like a pause in your life is actually the positioning of heaven, aligning what you cannot see. In these moments, character is tested not by what you do, but by how you wait. Anyone can endure when they know exactly when the reward is coming, but the real strength, the quiet, unshakable kind, is revealed when the timeline is hidden and you must walk forward in faith with no visible sign that anything is changing. This is not weakness, this is training. This is where God builds endurance that outlasts emotion. It's where he shapes hearts that do not crumble when storms return. There is an unseen world that pays close attention to how you carry yourself in these quiet moments. Do you speak life when no one is listening? Do you act with integrity when no one is watching? Do you nurture the vision even when it looks like nothing is moving? Because that is where the real preparation happens. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, in the unseen hours, in the silence that feels eternal. The greatest breakthroughs often come when we have learned to be still, without losing hope. When we have stopped looking around for signs and started looking within for strength. When we no longer beg for proof because we've grown into the kind of soul that trusts the promise even when it's invisible. This silence isn't empty, it's sacred. It's the sound of God moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't reached, softening hearts you don't even know are watching. The quiet before the breakthrough is not a punishment, it is a preparation. And when you understand that, you stop panicking in the pause. You stop doubting in the delay. Because you know, deeply, unshakably, that what's coming is far greater than what was lost. And tonight, that silence is about to speak. The weight of the wait. Waiting is not merely a test of time, it is a test of trust. There is a kind of heaviness that settles over the heart when a promise lingers longer than expected. You begin your journey with fire in your eyes, full of belief, certain that what you asked for will come swiftly. But as the days stretch into months, and the months into seasons, the weight of that promise becomes something you carry, not in your hands, but in your soul. It becomes something you take with you into every conversation, every sleepless night, every quiet moment of reflection. What few people speak about is the toll that waiting takes on the spirit. It is not just the delay that hurts, but the loneliness it creates. You see others receive their answers. You hear testimonies from every corner. You congratulate them with sincerity. But deep down you wonder why your own door remains closed. And still you show up. Still you pray. Still you hold on. Not because it is easy, but because something in you refuses to let go of what was promised, even when there are no signs that it's near. There is a sacred kind of strength that develops when you remain faithful in the absence of evidence. It's the kind of strength that isn't loud or dramatic. It doesn't seek recognition or applause. It is quiet, unshakable, built one day at a time in the furnace of patience. God does not delay without intention. What feels like a setback is often the setup for something that cannot be rushed. Sometimes the wait is not because the promise is unready, it's because you are being made ready for the promise. This is not something we like to admit, but blessings given too soon can become burdens. If you are handed a crown before your shoulders are strong enough to carry the weight of it, it will break you. That is why the wait matters. Not because God is slow to act, but because He loves too deeply to give you something you are not yet prepared to sustain. There are layers of growth that must unfold within you, lessons that cannot be taught in comfort, and wisdom that only emerges in the quiet space between hope and fulfillment. There are also things being rearranged that you cannot see, people whose hearts are being softened, opportunities being reshaped, enemies being silenced, paths being cleared. Heaven is not ignoring you. It is preparing the stage for your arrival. And when the moment comes, when the doors finally open, it will not be a coincidence. It will be a culmination. A divine orchestration that you never could have planned, but will fit so perfectly that you'll know only God could have arranged it. What's important in the wait is not merely enduring it, but how you carry yourself through it. You can allow the wait to crush you, or you can allow it to shape you. When you stop asking why it's taking so long and begin asking what you're meant to learn during the delay, something changes. The wait no longer feels like a punishment. It begins to feel like a sacred space, a space where your roots go deeper, where your foundation grows stronger, where your identity becomes unshakable, not because of what you've received, but because of who you've become in the absence of it. The weight of the wait is real. It can feel heavy, it can feel endless, but it will never be wasted. What you carry now in faith, you will soon carry in your hands. And when that moment comes, when God decides the time is now, the weight that once wearied you will transform into the very strength that allows you to stand tall in the light of your reward. The hidden hand of Providence. There is a mysterious way in which life unfolds, especially when you've placed your trust in something greater than yourself. It often doesn't follow the logic you hoped for, and it rarely gives explanations in the moment. You make plans, set goals, work with diligence, and do everything within your power to remain aligned with your faith, only to find that the outcomes arrive through detours you never expected. The journey begins to resemble a tapestry that makes little sense up close, threads crossing, twisting, forming knots where you hoped for clarity. But when you step back, you begin to see a design, intricate and unmistakably guided by a hand that was always working, even when it seemed absent. In the hardest chapters of your life, it's easy to feel forsaken, especially when what you're experiencing looks nothing like what you envisioned. There's a kind of confusion that settles in when everything around you seems to contradict the promise you've been holding on to. And yet, what appears as chaos from your limited viewpoint may be nothing more than the deliberate strategy of divine timing. There are countless moments in which you were protected from something you prayed for, not because you weren't deserving, but because the timing would have stolen the meaning from the blessing. The hand of Providence does not always announce itself. It moves silently, humbly, beneath the surface of your circumstances. While you're questioning why certain people left, something greater is clearing the room of those who would not have celebrated your growth. While you mourn over missed opportunities, Providence is redirecting you to spaces where your gifts won't just be used, they will be honored. You're not being kept from success. You're being positioned for sustainability. The delays, the disappointments, the sudden shifts, they're not evidence of divine absence. They are signatures of a careful, intentional process. So many moments that once felt like rejection will eventually be understood as redirection. What you thought was a lost connection may one day reveal itself to have been divine protection. The doors that shut in your face may have held the very things that would have compromised your peace, your purpose, or your identity. It's not always clear in the present, but over time patterns emerge and clarity begins to whisper through your memory. You start to see how one closed door led you to an open one that changed everything. You recognize how one unanswered prayer became the space in which you discovered your deeper calling. This is the nature of Providence. It works not just for your immediate desires, but for your eternal development. It sees not just where you are, but where you're going. It doesn't rush, it doesn't panic, and it never miscalculates. While you're focused on a single moment, Providence sees the full arc of your life. It isn't merely about giving you what you want, it's about making you into the person who can carry what you're meant to receive. That shaping process often includes confusion, discomfort, and even heartbreak, but it is never wasted. You were never forgotten, and you were never left alone. The hand of God has been guiding your steps through terrain you didn't understand, through seasons that didn't make sense, through storms that tried to break you. Even when you couldn't feel it, something was being orchestrated beyond your sight, and the day is coming, perhaps tonight, when what once felt disconnected will align in a way that takes your breath away. You'll look back on everything that made you question, and you'll see that none of it was random. Every twist, every pause, every shadowed valley was necessary to bring you to the threshold of what you were always meant to walk into. The reward has a name, you. There's a common belief that blessings fall randomly, that divine favor floats freely through the world, selecting people by chance or fortune, bypassing others for reasons unknown. But that is not how it works. What is written for you has been spoken over your life since before you were ever aware of it. The reward that is drawing near isn't wandering, looking for a home. It already knows your name. It already carries your imprint. It was never meant to land anywhere else. And the reason it has taken time to reach you is not because you were overlooked, but because something as specific, as personal, as intentionally crafted as this, does not move on a human schedule. Throughout your life, you've probably heard people say, "What's meant for you will never pass you by," yet that truth often feels distant when you are still waiting. When others are being celebrated and doors are opening for them while yours remain firmly shut, it's easy to question whether you were meant to receive anything at all. But what many fail to recognize is that the depth of a reward is often reflected in the depth of the refinement. A shallow blessing needs little preparation, but something rooted in divine purpose, something that shapes the next season of your life and impacts others beyond yourself, requires a foundation strong enough to hold it. You have spent years growing in places no one noticed, healing in silence, enduring disappointments that would have collapsed a lesser spirit. And though much of your labor has gone unseen, it has not gone unrewarded, because rewards from God are not earned through applause. They are built in the quiet hours, in the long nights, when you chose to remain kind when it would have been easier to grow cold. When you held your integrity while watching others prosper through compromise. These choices did not go unseen. They shaped the soul of someone who can carry a blessing with grace, without allowing it to corrupt their character. You were never meant to chase what belongs to you. That season is ending. The striving, the stretching, the endless attempts to prove your worth. Those are symptoms of a heart that hasn't yet seen its reflection in God's eyes. But something is changing now. The shift has already begun, not just in your surroundings, but within your spirit. You are beginning to understand that you do not need to beg for what has already been assigned to you. A reward is not circling the earth trying to decide where to go. It's being drawn to the version of you that stayed faithful through the process, to the you that remained steady when everything around you was shaking. This reward is not a random moment of good fortune. It is the fruit of your endurance, the result of divine timing and personal transformation. It doesn't just represent success, it represents alignment. It is not a gift designed to impress others. It's designed to restore you, to remind you of who you are, to confirm what you've carried deep in your spirit, even when doubt tried to take it from you. The reward is a reflection of the weight you've carried in silence, the promises you whispered into the night, the tears you wiped away without anyone knowing. Too often, people look for the reward to come in the form of material gain or public validation, and while those things may be included, they are not the essence of what's coming. The true reward is deeper. It's peace after chaos. It's clarity after confusion. It's the right relationships after seasons of betrayal. It's laughter in the place where pain once lived. It's restoration in the very area you thought would remain broken forever. It is not only that your situation changes, but that your spirit rises. What's coming doesn't just elevate your position, it restores your inner world. And only you will understand the full magnitude of what it means, because only you know what it cost to reach this point. There's a divine intelligence behind what's being given to you. It's not random because it was never meant for anyone else. Just as no one else could live your journey, no one else can carry your blessing. It has been shaped for the contours of your life, your values, your calling, your growth. What you're receiving now is not an act of luck or favoritism. It's a release. It's heaven, honoring the seeds you've sown in places that were dry, honoring the faith you've held when nothing in the natural world gave you reason to hold it. In this moment, you must also resist the urge to minimize what you're about to receive. Sometimes we've been in survival mode for so long that when the reward arrives, we instinctively try to push it away. We tell ourselves we're not ready, not worthy, or that it's too good to be true. But that is not humility, that is fear in disguise. What's coming to you has been validated by a power higher than your insecurity. It is not arriving because you are perfect, but because you remain true. It is not arriving because you never fell, but because you chose to rise again and again. You don't need to apologize for this moment. You've waited long enough. You've grown deep enough. And now you must receive it fully. not with hesitation, but with reverence. The reward has never been about proving yourself to the world. It's about walking into a space that reflects who you've become. It's about stepping into something that was waiting for you to become strong enough to hold it, wise enough to protect it, and healed enough to enjoy it. And when it comes, you will recognize that it never really left you. It was simply waiting for the right version of you to appear. It will not feel foreign, nor will it feel forced. It will feel like home. Because in the end, the reward is not just something you receive, it is something you become. And tonight, what is yours, by design, by destiny, by divine appointment, will begin to find its way into your life, not because you chased it, but because you finally became the person who could carry it well. Prepare like it's already done. There is a posture the soul must take before the promise arrives, an inward readiness that has nothing to do with arrogance and everything to do with trust. The kind of trust that doesn't wait for the visible evidence before taking action, but moves with quiet assurance as if the outcome is already settled. Because in truth it is. What has been spoken over your life is not still under review. It is not pending approval. The delay you've experienced is not a denial of your worth, but a refining of your readiness. And now, the next step is not to continue questioning whether it will happen, but to begin preparing for it like it's already on the way. Too many remain stuck in spiritual hesitation, waiting for everything to be perfect before they begin moving. They wait for the opportunity to appear before sharpening their skill. They wait for the door to open before preparing their response. But the ones who see breakthrough, the ones who live with divine rhythm, understand that preparation is not reactive, it is prophetic. It is a declaration in action, a silent signal to heaven and earth that you are no longer living in doubt, you are living in expectation. An expectation changes how you speak, how you carry yourself, and how you manage what's in your hands right now. If you believe the table is being prepared, you set your place before the meal arrives. You clean the room before the guest walks in. You prepare the vessel before the oil begins to flow. And while others may laugh, while others may question your urgency or doubt your conviction, you do not flinch, because you understand something they do not. You understand that faith is not simply about believing in what you cannot see. It's about moving as if what you believe is already real. This shift in behavior does not come from blind ambition. It comes from inner clarity. It is the quiet alignment of a soul that has stopped begging and started building. Not building in desperation, but building in dignity. You may not see the full picture yet, but you've seen enough to begin. You've heard enough to act. You've felt enough stirring within to make space for what's coming. And in making space, you invite the manifestation. You don't wait until it happens to act like you're chosen. You begin to live like someone who has already been trusted with something sacred. This kind of preparation isn't always dramatic. It might look like organizing your thoughts, developing discipline, tending to the small responsibilities that once felt beneath your calling. It might look like showing up with excellence in places that don't yet reflect the promise. It might mean forgiving before the apology comes, healing before the opportunity arrives, surrendering your timeline so that God's can unfold without resistance. Because what you prepare for with reverence, you will sustain with strength. Far too many people wait until the last moment to get ready for the very thing they've prayed for. But the blessing doesn't wait for convenience. It responds to readiness. And readiness is not just about skill or strategy. It's about stewardship. How are you managing the season you're in? Are you treating it like a waiting room or like a training ground? Are you merely counting days or making every day count? Because if you truly believed the reward was near, if you truly believed the promise would manifest, You would not live like someone still questioning whether it's real. You would live like someone who's already building a life to hold it. And this, more than anything else, is the final turning point. Not just believing that something is coming, but living like it's already been decided, because it has. The shift, the favor, the open door, it's already in motion. And the most powerful thing you can do in this moment is not to plead for proof, but to prepare like it's done. Speak with the wisdom of someone who has already walked through the fire. Move with the humility of someone who knows they were trusted with something rare. Make space in your mind, your routine, your surroundings, your spirit. Because when it arrives, it will not arrive with time to scramble or rehearse. It will come to the version of you who was bold enough to believe that silence wasn't the absence of movement. It was the sound of destiny drawing near.